2.5% decline in population, 4.9% in payroll in the same time. This is not a problem that happened as a result of some international banking thing. This is something that's been happening to the state of Ohio for a period of years. And I think we have to understand that. And so the answers that we come to, and I know how strongly the Speaker feels about this, have to be long-term answers. They can't be some kind of a prosthetic Band-Aid that's put on a problem that has existed for some time. I think also it's important for us to keep in mind that the revisions that have been made in the budget are predicated upon speculation. Ned Hill can tell you that if you have two economists in the room, you have 3 to 5 probably opinions. So we have economists giving us predictions, and yet I would have to confess that in many cases they're not particularly helpful. The difficulty that we face now is trying to figure out, contemporaneously we are seeing, for example, with the decline in income, and it's particularly in the income tax, we actually are having a decline in income tax receipts. That reflects unemployment. Contemporaneously, we're having an increase in demand for Medicaid assistance because those people who are not working are not necessarily covered by their old medical plans, and they don't have enough money to buy COBRA coverage. So we see it contemporaneously, these two things going on. And I think that's a very, very serious problem for the state of Ohio to address. But we are looking at Medicaid overspending in terms of the projections, as well as a decline in the area then of income for the state of Ohio. The difficulty in the Medicaid area is particularly aggravated by the fact that a lot of the increase comes from the most expensive portion. And as Representative Boyd will tell you, who is an expert, I was going to say you were an expert in aging. That's not fair, Barb. She's an expert in the problems of those who are aging. That does not include her or me. I'm a promising young man in my own mind. The truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, the biggest increase in the numbers of recipients of Medicaid are in the most expensive program, which is, of course, aged, blind, and disabled. So we are looking at a situation in which tax receipts are going down, demand is going up, and if they really want to do something in Washington that would be helpful, what they would do is fund Medicaid 100%. We live in a time where we're mandated by Washington to do certain things, and yet the wherewithal is not here now for us. And if they're going to spend those kinds of monies, they could indeed provide medical coverage in the Medicaid area. And so it seems to me that as opposed to bailing out everybody and their uncle, they ought to be looking at that impact. In Ohio, it is complex even more because we have a lot of locally driven support for government. Mayor Jackson, I know you're faced with the problem up here in terms of income. That's true of almost all of our subdivisions. We have a system since 1947. I was not in the House then, Armond. Since 1947 of local income taxes. This is good. This gives local people more home rule control, which I happen to be an advocate of. And most Ohioans have been since 1912, when the Constitution was amended. But at the end of the day, they also then are relying on that for safety forces, for other programs which are very much needed in urban areas. And some of our schools now have income taxes. We have one in Medina County, for example, which is a payroll tax. Others have other income-related taxes. There are 4 different varieties of income tax that are available on a permissive basis at the state level for schools with the passage by local people. So we are in a situation in which local governments are also being squeezed at the same time. I'm going to go through a few things that I think can help. And one of the first things that I think we have to do is go back to the system that we had for many years in the House of Representatives to have a nonpartisan legislative budget office watching the budget. If we don't have an LBO the way we did for many years, then we are completely, and I'm not speaking to this governor, I'm speaking to governors generally, we do not have a handle on income and expenditure on an ongoing basis. And it is crucial that the legislature be a partner in this area. It is required, after all, that all monies that are spent be appropriated by the legislature, the House of Representatives first, of course, obviously, being the more important house. And apologies to you, Senator. And in addition to that, we then have to know what's going on as matters go forward. I think, very frankly, that there would have been a greater concern in the legislature itself in terms of what was about to happen had there been an LBO. For example, we passed legislation taking one-time monies, mostly from the tobacco fund, unfortunately, which I think was a mistake, and subsidizing a new senior homestead exemption without any regard to income. I think that that kind of thing, had we seen the train coming, would have been probably rejected. I'm not quite sure how you get members to vote against senior citizens, but I think it's possible if you can show that it isn't being funded. I think we also, in that context, need to have people participating who are outside the state bureaucracy, who will counsel and advise their view of what is happening to us here in the state. We need to consolidate departments in state government. State government has grown, and I can recall Jack Gilligan introducing legislation to separate corrections from mental health and mental retardation. Then we had legislation to separate mental health from mental retardation, and so forth. And by the time you're done, you have an awful lot of bureaucrats, but maybe no better services. It seems to me that this is an area that we ought to be addressing in order to cut down the cost of government, and very simply would simplify government in terms of control of its operations. And I think we really ought to be doing some things in the area of tax reform that would help us as a state to attract and retain people. I had a very dear friend who was active in the Masonic Order with me, who ran into a real problem when his lawyers and accountants told him he had to move to Florida. He had to move to Florida because of our income tax levels, and more importantly because of the death tax in Ohio. That is a kind of a stupid system, the death tax is, and when Dave Thomas left Ohio, he then remained in Florida, and he left more money there than he left to charities here. He was always a very giving person. We need to keep people like that in this state. Their participation, their leadership, their work in our charitable organizations is crucial. I understand some local governments don't want to do that. I understand that. And if that's the case, then let them, through permissive legislation, adopt probably whatever sort of an estate tax they want. In Medina County, we will not do that, and I hope all those rich people will move to Medina County and help us by paying income tax. The final area that I would like to mention is, and the governor has been has shown backbone on this, is to continue to decrease the income tax. We're the 6th highest in the country, I believe, still, and we therefore are keeping some of the people that Armond wants very much, and I want very much, to attract people who are engaged in entrepreneurial activity. And it's extremely important, I think, that they be induced to come here in part by our tax structure. This is one of the greatest states in the nation. The potential of this region in particular over the years has been dramatic. I don't think without Northeast Ohio we would have won World War II as soon as we did. The basic skills and abilities of the people in this region still make us stand out in the country, and we need to have a governmental situation that will induce the kind of growth here that we need in order to provide more jobs and opportunities, most particularly to provide the base of education that is required there. I appreciate Dr. Swartz's effort here at Cleveland State. This has been a very important growth, and I just want to tell you a little anecdote about it as I finish.